end of the fantasy booking. This is my version of Bound for Glory and how I would do Bound for Glory. Now, a lot of stuff has been leading up to this, though a lot of people probably won't see it that way because there was a lot of things. There's a lot of problems I have with TNA, and so this was a lot of me fixing, in my opinion, a lot of those problems and trying to put on the best show at the same time. So, so I didn't want to necessarily do what TNA would do. I wanted to do what I would do and how I would do things completely different from TNA. And I think you've seen that over the time as I've been putting on matches. That, you know, some matches TNA would fall in because some of them are kind of no-brainers, but I've done a lot of things differently as well. So that is this. And Bound for Glory, of course, their biggest pay-per-view of the year. This is the pay-per-view they hype. This is the pay-per-view they kind of go fully out for. And I think they do, but I don't think they need to go fully out as far as the entertainment aspect. I think it needs to be the best. I think it doesn't just need to be their biggest pay-per-view. I think it has to be the best wrestling pay-per-view of the year, and that's what it needs to be known as. You're never going to be able to match all of everything WWE does with WrestleMania. You're never going to be able to do that, and if you try to do that and you come up with a weak version of WrestleMania, it's going to look pathetic. Instead, you just need to go out there and you need to put on the best show you possibly can, and you need to book it for that reason, meaning you need to give matches length, you need to put the best draws and the best matches you possibly can on the show. All of those sort of things. If you don't, then Bound for Glory just ends up being, it's TNA's biggest pay-per-view. You know, last year was very good. This year I don't know, because I don't know what they're going to do yet. But it's all, you know, it really kind of depends. I mean, last year's pay-per-view was very good, but you know, if Sting and Angle don't deliver, then it's not as good as it could have been. And I think that's the things that TNA needs to start realizing, is that they have to, it has to be different enough from the WWE to where people at least start getting that buzz, start getting, you know, you're not going to turn the ratings and you're not going to turn the buy rates numbers, you know, they're not going to magically get better overnight. It takes time. You have to get people talking about the product. You have to make people believe that, hey, let's spend money on the product, or, you know, let's, you know, start asking the question, hey, why isn't, you know, the bar I go watch WWE pay-per-views at, why isn't that showing TNA pay-per-views? That sort of thing. If you can go to that length, then that's going to help TNA out, and that's what TNA needs to do. And this is a pay-per-view that I think that in a lot of ways does that. There's a lot of things that I have going on in this pay-per-view, so let's get started. Of course, at No Surrender, I had Super Eric go over Abyss and unmask Abyss. And so now Abyss is no longer Abyss, he's Chris Parks. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, we don't want to see Chris Parks, you know, and I read some comments about that, unmasked. But to me, they've gone as far as they can with the Abyss character. So I think that at some point you're going to have to change. You know, I think he's good enough on the mic that he can carry himself. And I think what you do is you basically, you've unmasked Abyss, and so in some people's mind, okay, so is this going to be different? Is this going to be the same guy? Is it going to be different? And you kind of find out that Abyss was, you know, very much like Super Eric is the alter ego of Eric Young. Abyss was very much a different personality of Chris Parks, and that Chris Parks is a much evil, much more sadistic, much worse guy. That basically, you know, Super Eric unleashed a monster, and, you know, killing the monster, he unleashed the monster, and he starts, you know, Chris Parks starts showing up, starts just brutalizing people left and right, to the point where Super Eric agrees to a Monsters Ball match. Now, usually Monsters Ball matches are 3-ways, but I'm going to do just a 2-way, but I'm going to bring back the original rules of we're locked in a room, no food, no water, dark, 24 hours, and basically, you know, have the little night vision cameras there where you can see both guys, and have, you know, Chris Parks sitting there pretty much just still stoic the whole time. And, you know, they're showing images of Super Eric, and he's sitting there, and at first he's stoic, and then as time goes over, he starts, you know, kind of pacing the floor, and he starts kind of going crazy. so that by the time the match happens, Super Eric is in this, like, just he wants to hurt somebody. He's not in his right mind. He's kind of crazy, all of that. And that's what Chris Parks wants. You figure out during the match, is it's a brutal, just hardcore type of match, to the point where, you know, at the end, Super Eric, either with chairs, kendo stick, however you want to do it, is just, you know, kind of like that image of The Rock killing Mick Foley when Mick Foley was on his knees and Mick Foley was like, hit me again, hit me again, hit me again with the chair. That kind of image, where Chris Parks is like, yeah, do it again, do it again, do it again, until the point where Super Eric is like, what am I doing? What am I, you know, why am I doing this? You know, he's basically lost faith in himself. He throws down the chair or kendo stick or whatever he's using, starts to turn away. Chris Parks gets up, starts destroying him, rips off the mask finally, so that we see that it's Eric Young under the mask, and beats him to a pulp, leaves him bloody with the mask there, basically says, you know, we all hide under masks. Unfortunately, you weren't brave enough to, you know, step out of your mask like I was. Something to those, along those lines. And there we go with that. And basically you have unleashed the and this is kind of them saying, hey, you've unleashed the devil. You know, what Chris Parks, when he feuds with somebody, wants may not be what you think he wants. That sort of thing, mind game sort of thing. Next match we have is Team Mexico versus Team Japan rematch from the X Cup. You do a little 6-man or 8-man, depending on how you want to do it, and you let them go out there, and you do this for the sole reason that you utilize your talent agreements. That's the first thing, because you need to use that more. So this makes this a special attraction, something you would not normally see on a regular pay-per-view. And you remind people about the X Cup, and you remind people about, you know, the little mini feud that Team Mexico and Team Japan had when I booked the X Cup that they had. So you have all of that kind of going on. You remind people of the X Cup, because if I was TNA, I would do the X Cup at Destination X, and have that be a center point of Destination X. Have it be kind of how I set it up at Victory Road, where it was kind of a tournament type of thing. And let that sell the pay-per-view by itself, giving that pay-per-view its own kind of unique feel, which is something that I think more TNA pay-per-views need, because I think that if you give them their unique feel, I think it will help the pay-per-views stand on their own a little bit better, and it's not just 12 pay-per-views, which is, you know, a problem both TNA and WWE has. So you do that, you give them, you know, 20 minutes, you let them go out there, you let them steal the show. You do that with pretty much every match on here, by the way. You give them enough time that you can give them, still putting on the matches you want to put on, and you let every single person, let egos be thrown out, and you let them try to steal the show. You know, maybe you burn out the crowd. If so, that's something that you know, that's a gamble you take. But let them go out there and let them do what they can. But let these guys go out there, let them showcase what they can, and there we go. Next, Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T. Now, how does this all come around? Well, Booker T, being the crybaby heel that I've turned him into, goes to Jim Cornette and basically says, you know, you had all these guys, you know, I had to wait for my title shot, and then, you know, and I wasn't allowed, you know, to be in the Gauntlet for the Gold, so I wasn't able, you know, get my chance to get on the main event of Bound for Glory. This, that, or the other. You also have Jeff Jarrett complaining to Jim Cornette about how he was eliminated, how everyone ganged up on him, how he's not getting any respect. You know, he basically built this company. If it wasn't for him, this company wouldn't exist. He wants to know who he's taking for Bound for Glory, because he must be on for Bound for Glory. This, that, and the other. And Jim Cornette basically looks at him and says, you know what? I'm tired of both of you. You both are going to face each other at Bound for Glory. Now people are going to say, well, who plays the face and who plays the heel? Neither. It's heel and heel. You let them go out there and you let them do somewhat of a comedy match where they're both playing heels, they're both cheating behind the ref's back. There's all sorts of little... You're quintessential in a lot of ways, old school sports entertainment match. Used to be, they used to do this a lot back in the 70s, early 80s. You would see matches like this, and if you've ever seen one, they work very well. You have Jeff Jarrett and Booker T. I am very sure can work this match and work it very well. It would be something different. Both guys, are capable of putting on a pretty good match. I mean, this is probably in my opinion, is the weakest match on the card. But I also gave them the least amount of time, and so there is that. And just let him go out there, do a little something different. You've got Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett. Might be something a little unique. There we go. Next we have Sting versus Kurt Angle. The rematch of last year's Bound for Glory's main event. What leads up to this is we've had this, and this is how I would do it, with Sting kind of lamenting, talking about his career, talking about the fact of it, it's coming to its twilight, this, that, and the other. And he decides that, the greatest challenge he's had so far was Kurt Angle. And that it still sticks in his craw that he went out against Kurt Angle, beat Kurt Angle for the title, and then lost it, basically, on the next Impact. And that's never satisfied him. He still has it. So he wants no titles, just Sting versus Kurt Angle. You let them go out there. You let them pretty much have the same match they had last year at Bound for Glory, a little less time so we don't have the boring start of it. You let them go out there. Again, you let both guys go out there and try to do what they can do. And, put on the best match they possibly can. And hopefully it works. Next we have Kong versus Melissa, cheerleader Melissa. And this, of course, has been building for a while, where Melissa beat Kong for the championship, then Kong beat Melissa for the championship, and now to settle it all, it's going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match, because I like those better than doing a, for like 20-minute match probably, because I like that better than doing an Iron Man match for 30 minutes, where to me it just doesn't work as well. I would much rather see a 2 out of 3 falls match where you can have a little bit more psychology thrown into it. It kind of limits on what you can do, I understand, but I also think that it works a little better, particularly if, for example, Kong comes out, beats Melissa right away in one pin, and then you kind of go from there, and Melissa has to basically, conquer the beast. She's going to have to beat her 2 times in a row now. Or you could do where Melissa's trying to stay away from Kong. She knows the match is, it's going to go 20 minutes, and she doesn't think Kong can go 20 minutes. So she's going to try to wear Kong down, try to use her speed, her quickness, her skill to try to stay away from Kong, try to get Kong winded so that she can beat her later in the match, maybe just one pin. Maybe, pin her later in the match, that sort of thing. Just something like that, and you allow the knockouts, who have, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, been carrying this company to a large degree, you give them a major spot on the pay-per-view, you give them a good long match on the pay-per-view, and you make it seem important because you've given them, traditionally a 2 out of 3 falls match is a fairly important, fairly technical type match. You let them go out there, you let them, because if you've never seen these two wrestle each other, they both can put on just as good as matches probably just about everybody on here, given the circumstances. So, here we go with that. Next we have LAX versus Motor City Machine Guns and Ultimate X. Given the fact that we had the double pin at the last pay-per-view, it's decided that it'll be LAX versus Motor City Machine Guns and Ultimate X. Everyone's gonna like that. You let these guys go out there and do their thing, and it's good. Pretty much it's going to be awesome, unless somebody screws something up major. It's going to be awesome. Then we get Christian versus Kaz. Christian, of course, got the title shot at for coming in the runner-up for Gauntlet for the Gold. So he takes on Kaz for the X Division Championship. Now this whole thing, Christian's like, man, I don't want to take on the, it's the X Division championship, this, that, or the other. And basically, it's Kaz, talking up the X Division, talking up what that title means, talking about the fact that, this is the title that, yeah, it's the secondary title, but it's an important title, and this, that, and the other, and try to make it seem like more of an important title than it is, where then Christian wants to take it on and bring up the fact of, you know, the match they had last year, where, you know, those were very good matches, and to the point where Christian decides, hey, you know, I want to take on this match, I want the challenge, I want to see if I can beat Kaz, this, that, you know, that. So there we go with that. And the main event, Joe versus AJ Styles. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's not a big enough main event, and I totally disagree, because for the last, even in TNA's words and in mine, you have built AJ back up to where he is a legit main eventer in TNA now. You allowed him to go over, and I did too, over Kurt Angle. He got the better of Kurt Angle, and he is now, you know, kind of the top guy. You tried to push him to be the top guy. You have Joe, who's been, you know, hopefully the dominant champion, not the way TNA has, you know, I don't think they did on purpose, but kind of mistakenly have booked him. And you bring up the fact that these two love taking on each other. You bring up their past matches. You bring up their rivalry. You have that all leading up to where they have respect for each other, but they still want to beat each other because both of them thinks each other's better than the other one. You give them 30 minutes. You let them go out there. You just sit back and enjoy, because, you know, these two can go out there and put on an awesome match. We all know that. We've all seen it. So, and I would have AJ go over, kind of topping, you know, his run, putting him back, you know, as like the main event guy. I think he's the guy that should beat Joe. I think now, I think AJ is the hotter commodity now than Joe is. And so I think you can tap into that. You can have AJ win. This is a feud you can start at Bound for Glory and continue for a while now, and I think help kind of carry the company in kind of a way, kind of send a message to the fans that they're trying to put over the younger guys finally, that sort of thing. That's my Bound for Glory. I'm sure a lot of people are going to say it's not star-studded enough or this or other, but I went kind of a different way with it. I still think it's star-studded enough. I think that wrestling fans, who, let's face it, that's who are going to buy this, if you look at TNA's buy rates, will buy this. I think it's a good, I think there's enough stuff on there to where I think people are going to say, hey, let's go out there and, you know, maybe this is something more people will buy. It'd be interesting to see. But this is how I would book it. I think you have enough star-studdedness. I think pretty much have all of the major major draws in the company on the card. So I think that works too. So hopefully it works. Like I said, this is how I would end it. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm out. Later.